Good morning, everyone. Like I was saying, my name is Cristina Banda. I am the Education Coordinator for the Illinois Family Resource Center. I have been with the Illinois Family Resource Center working on my second year, so that's pretty exciting. A little bit about me before I introduce the topic. Prior to coming to the Illinois Family Resource Center, I was an education specialist with Chicago Children's Advocacy Center. So I did some work there, similar to what I do now with the Illinois Family Resource Center, delivering trainings to the community, but that work was on the prevention of child sexual abuse. So I would go out to the community, to schools, to give trainings and classes to kids in schools on how to keep themselves safe. And prior to the Children's Advocacy Center, I was a middle school teacher. I was teaching eighth grade for about 10 years. So I have that background with working with teenagers and just knowing that they do have, some of them have a lot of trauma, childhood trauma that impacts their learning later on, their behavior. So this is really important to me because I've seen it firsthand. I've seen how trauma impacts children, how living in a chaotic household impacts the child. So this is really important for me to present on. So today's presentation will be talking about substance use and the effects on the child. Some objectives that we'll go over, we'll learn about the services offered by the Illinois Family Resource Center. If you're not familiar with what we do, who we are, I'll go over some statistics, defining substance use disorders, defining child abuse. We'll become familiar with the impact substance use has on child abuse. And then we'll also learn about some of the resources available to help those children who need us and families who need us, and how to report child abuse. If you do not know who we are, so we are a state-funded program. So we're funded by Super. We work all across the state. We attend conferences. We give out information and resources on substance use disorder information, on recovery, and how these disorders impact the entire family, and how to get the whole family involved in the recovery process, how to help the children in the family. So we do not do direct service. We just do more of we give out resources, information, and when we attend conferences, we also have an exhibit table, or we go to further our learning. We offer resources in Spanish and English. We just started. Nancy was doing all this work all by herself for the past 10 years. And we are celebrating our 10th year. April 1st was our 10-year anniversary. Nancy told me when I came on board that people thought, this project was just, it wasn't going to make it. It was just, temporary, a 1-year thing. But here we are celebrating 10 years. So yay to Nancy's work for keeping the Illinois Family Resource Center going. So it's really good. And a lot of people, I'm really happy that a lot of people are starting to find out who we are and that all of our resources are free. Our webinars are free. Everything that we can help you with is free. So people are starting to get to know us, which is a great thing. We also have another program that eventually is going to fall under the umbrella of the Illinois Family Resource Center, which is the Circle of Care. Some of you might be familiar with what the Circle of Care is. If you are not, it is the work that they're doing is to gather information, data, resources, and grief support services for children who are impacted by the loss of a loved one due to substance use disorders in their family. And it doesn't just have to be a loss related to substance use disorder. What they're doing is you can use it for any type of grief. It doesn't have to be, related to substance use disorders. We have a ton of free information resources on our website. We have toolkits that you can access, that you can use with kiddos that you work with who are grieving the loss of someone. And I see it as more of a social emotional learning for the children, not just grief due to a loss. So if you have not visited our website, I encourage you to get on there, look at all the resources. They still have a couple of trainings left for handle with care discussions. So if you have not joined in on any of their trainings, I highly encourage you. They're also working on these comfort bags that they're giving out to organizations so that they can give out to their kiddos. So if you attended any of their Threads of Hope training, any handle with care discussion, I believe Ambrosia said you can sign up to receive those comfort bags. So if you want more information on Circle of Care, you can go on our website and you can find all that information there. We also have I mentioned our website. We have a website with a ton of free resources. We have a Facebook page where we share all of our upcoming webinars. We share other people's webinars. We share information related to recovery, to the recovery process. We offer technical assistance all across the state. So it doesn't matter what part of the state you are located in. We can travel or we can do it via Zoom. We, like I had said earlier, we attend conferences. We have exhibit tables. I like to attend fairs. So I've gone to mental health fairs and set up a table, to problem gambling conferences, and I've set up a table. So if you have something coming up, an event that I can attend with a table with information for the community, please feel free to email me. My email address will be at the end of the presentation. So before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that this is a difficult topic for some. We will be talking about child abuse. I won't be going into, very detailed description of what child sexual abuse is, but we will be touching on what it is, what's the different types of abuse, and how substance use disorders impact that relationship that the parents have with the child. So if you do need a break from the content from the presentation, please feel free to walk away from your computer, go get some water, go refill your coffee, whatever it is that you need to take care of you. That is what I want you to do, because this could be a heavy topic for some. So we'll start with defining substance use disorder. So substance use disorder is a treatable mental disorder that affects a person's brain and behavior, leading to their inability to control their use of substances like legal or illegal drugs, alcohol, or medications. So a lot of people think that people who have a substance use disorder, it's all personal choice that they're choosing to use or they're choosing to drink. But what they don't realize that it's a mental disorder. It's your brain is being hijacked by this substance. So people who have a substance use disorder think that they need this substance to live, right? So they can't control that. So a lot of people just say, oh, well, it's easy for them to stop using. If they don't stop using, it's just because they don't want to. But it's more than that. It's more people need help. People need resources. People need support for them to get this mental disorder of a substance use under control and into recovery. So some statistics, according to the 2023 National Survey on Drug Use and Health, there are approximately 48.5 million individuals aged 12 or older who are affected by substance use disorders each year. If you look at that age 12 and older, 12 is still a baby, right? There's still children. And there's children out there who are already using, who are already impacted by substance use disorders. According to the CDC, there were 170,000 alcohol-related deaths each year between 2020 and 2021. Around 87,000 people died from drug overdoses during September 2023 and September 2024. That's about 239 overdoses per day. That is a lot. That is one too many. And people aren't talking about this, right? And people aren't talking about these numbers because of the stigma that comes with it. People aren't talking about it because of the shame. So the more we talk about this, the more presentations, trainings people are made aware of that exist. We start eliminating that stigma and that shame, and that it's and letting people know that it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to seek help if you need it. So some of the breakdown from the data that I just gave you. Alcohol use disorder, it's around 28.9 million people. And this is according to the 2023 national survey. So this is nationwide data. And I'll talk about a little bit about Illinois specific data in the next couple slides. Drug use disorder, 27.2 million individuals experienced drug use disorder. And then 7.5 million people had both an alcohol and a drug use disorder. So think about all these numbers. Think about, put it into perspective when you start thinking of children who live with these people who have this disorder, right? So it's not just the person who has this disorder that's being impacted, it's everyone around them who is also getting impacted by this disorder. Data shows that an estimated 1,216 Illinois children lost a parent to a fatal overdose in 2022. So here we start talking about how children are impacted, right? Children are being left without a parent. A lot of these kids end up in the system and in foster care. They end up with family who that family member or that foster family might not give them that proper care that they need. And all these parents who are using and who are losing their lives, maybe they didn't know that there was help out there. They didn't know how to seek that help. They were ashamed, or they didn't know where to go for help. So again, the more we talk about it, the more presentations we attend on this topic, the more the community is made aware. We start working towards that, eliminating that barrier. So this is a little bit of more data. If you don't like data, I am sorry, but this is, I think, I'm not going to promise, I think this is the last slide on data that I have. So from 2011 to 2021, 321,566 children lost a parent to a drug overdose. That's a lot of children being left without a parent. In 2020, an estimated 216,838 children were removed from their homes in the United States, with 83,000 of those removals being from alcohol or drug use. So again, children are being removed. They're being put in foster care or with other family members, and we don't know how those children are being treated once they get to those places. In 2021, around 9,621 children who were in foster care in Illinois were placed with their relatives. And that can be a good thing, because children are staying with somebody that they know, somebody that they trust, but sometimes that's not always the case. In the state of Illinois in 2022, approximately 650 children were removed from their home due to parental drug or alcohol abuse. Again, this is impacting not just the person who is using, who has that substance use disorder, but it's impacting the children. And oftentimes children are they're hurting. They want help, right? They need that support, and we often forget about them because we a lot of times, believe that, well, they're little, they're not really understanding what's going on. They'll get over it. But it's not the case. Children feel, they see, and it's impacting them, not just at the moment, but it impacts them later on in life. One in four children are impacted by the effects of a parent or caregiver misusing substances. So, an easy example: there's 8 children in a classroom, 8 children in a pre-K class. Two of those children are more than likely impacted by a parent's use of a substance. So how can you tell, or how do you know that someone has a substance use disorder? They have excessive alcohol consumption. They drink a lot of alcohol. The more they drink, the more they feel happy, or the more they forget about their problems. So they feel like that the more they drink, they start feeling better, right? So they drink alcohol. They disregard the risks that comes with excessive alcohol consumption. They have a dependence on substances. They think that they need it to survive, right? They need it daily. They let it impact their daily lives, right? Work, taking care of children, frequent and excessive drug use. So regular consumption of drugs beyond safe or prescribed limits. Let's remember that it's not just like opioids or cannabis. It's all kinds of drugs that we are talking about here. Parental neglect due to substance use. Parents who are struggling with addiction, they sometimes are not on their senses, right? Like they don't know what's going on. They have impaired judgment. They're not providing proper care to the children, and those children are being oftentimes neglected by their parents. Let's remember that substance use disorder does not discriminate. It impacts everyone. It doesn't matter where you come from, who your family is, what family you come from. If you're black, white, yellow, brown, whatever color you are, it can impact you, can impact people with, really successful people. It's not, there's no, there's no specific way that a person looks. I was at a training not too long ago where somebody asked, so how does a person with a substance use disorder look? So they were looking for specifics, right? They look a certain way, they dress a certain way, but that is not the case. It can be a family member, right? It can be mom, dad, brother, sister, grandma, grandpa. It can be anyone. So that's important to remember, because people tend to kind of brush that, like it doesn't impact, that person doesn't have a substance use disorder because they look a certain way, only that person because they look a certain way. So let's not just think about how they look. It can be anyone. So what are some of the effects of parental substance use on children? Children often live in chaotic households. They are oftentimes exposed to illegal activities. They have inconsistent parenting and lack of appropriate supervision because the parents are either away using, or they might leave them alone at home because they need to go buy their substance of their choice. So they're not consistently there to provide emotional support to their children. They're not there to make sure their children are safe. Parental behavior. They might Parents might act a certain way that make the child feel guilt or shame, or the children might blame themselves for their parents' behavior. Like a lot of times, I've heard, from my experience in the classroom, parents blame their child, right? Oh, you were bad all day. I need a glass of wine. Or I'm drinking because you are so bad. Or I need to use, this drug because you just stress me out so much and this relieves me. This makes me, this makes my stress go away. So parents start blaming the child or just saying that to the child, and the child takes it upon themselves to blame themselves, right? Well, it's my fault that my parent is like this. It's my fault that my parent is using because I didn't listen today. Some emotional challenges that the children might face when they live in a household with a parent who has a substance use disorder. Um, Children might develop a feeling that they have to be perfect, right? They can't mess up. They have to be on their best behavior so that their parent does not, they don't upset their parents. Um, they believe that they have to be a parent to their parents. They are the ones taking care of mom or dad or the grown up in their household because, they drank too much or they're high on whatever drug they use, right? So the child grows up thinking that they're with the responsibility of like, I have to take care of mom or dad. They grow up not trusting because the person that they felt like they could trust the most, which is the parent, let them down or is not there. So they start losing trust. Well, if I can't trust my parent, who else am I going to trust? I can't trust anyone. Sometimes you see kids who are extremely shy, or extremely aggressive. That's because they don't know how to regulate their emotions. They've never been taught that. Um, Children who grow up with a parent who has a substance use disorder sometimes resist authority. They're rebellious. They don't want to follow any rules. Um, they can start also experimenting with substances. Some children withdraw socially, like they want to be alone. They want to be in isolation. They don't want to, hang out with friends. They have a difficulty forming relationships with adults, with peers, with teachers, right? Because of that, I can't trust anyone. Or my mom or dad say I can't talk to anyone about this. Like it stays in my household. So there's some family rules that kids who have a parent with a substance use disorder oftentimes have to go by, right? So don't talk. Don't tell anyone else about what's going on in this house. Um, Keep my substance use to the family, right? No one outside the household can know what's going on here. Don't trust. Um, Oftentimes, parents who have a substance use disorder break promises to the children, and so the children learn to grow up with I can't trust anyone, and don't feel. The children oftentimes shut down because they don't know how to express their emotions. They don't know how to deal with them. They don't know how to ask for help. And if they do, maybe they've been shut down by their parent, right? So they've just learned to bottle everything in and just I'll figure it out. Like no one else has to know. I'll just kind of keep living life, doing what I have to do, but no one else has to know what I'm feeling because maybe they don't care. Mom or dad don't care. So why is anyone else going to care? Some of the hidden struggles of children in homes affected by substance use disorders. These struggles sometimes we don't see. If you work with children, and not in a direct way, right? Like where they come and they tell you what's going on. We might not know that this is going on in their household. They witness a lot of arguments and fights in the home because of the substance. Physical harm. Some children end up getting hurt physically because their parents are, upset or they are going through that withdrawal from their substance and they turn violent and they end up hurting the child. Abuse and neglect, which is what this presentation is going to cover. Children who have a parent with a substance use disorder in the household are more at risk for being abused and neglected, sometimes by the parent or by the people who are coming in and out of that household, right? Exposure to crime. Kids are seeing people coming in and out of the house, um, either, with drugs, with alcohol. So they're being exposed to all these illegal activities. And if children see that on a daily basis, they grow up thinking it's normal. And that's how it starts impacting them as adults because they saw it in their households and like they saw it as normal, so it's normal. Emotional confusion, struggling to understand their feelings, leading to fear, anxiety, acting out. Again, like I mentioned earlier, all the childhood trauma that tends to be ignored or is ignored, later on it can lead to not just emotional problems, anxiety, it can also lead to health problems later on down the road. So, parental substance abuse is a risk factor for various forms of child abuse. In Illinois, approximately 49,000 children live with a parent that has a substance use disorder. So, it is a lot of children who are living in these households, and oftentimes are being forgotten. One of the most important things to remember is that parents struggling with substance use are not bad parents. They love their children, they want the best for their children, but because that substance is hijacking their brain, they sometimes can't, right? They don't know how to do better for their children. They're just doing what's needed to survive, right? And if they think that by drinking or using drugs that is their form of survival, that's what they're doing. But just because they are struggling with that addiction doesn't mean that they don't love their children. They do. They just might need that extra help, extra support to be there for their children. This is important to have in I don't in your office. I printed it out and I put it on like on the wall outside my daughter's room, just because it doesn't, I feel like it doesn't just apply to someone who has a substance use disorder. It can be just like, so angry, right? Like I'm just upset because something didn't go how I planned it, and I just like start, it can be me. I can just start acting out, right? But children need to know that they didn't cause it. They can't control it. They can't cure it, but they can help take care of themselves by communicating their feelings, making healthy choices, and celebrating themselves. These are the 7 C's by Jerry Moe. You can find it on the NACOA website, or you can also find it on our website. It's really important to let the children know that it's not their fault. They can take care of themselves by seeking that help, seeking that support. If they are if they are put in a dangerous situation, an unsafe situation, that it's okay to seek help from an adult who will help keep them safe. Children want to love their parents, right? If you ask, when I used to work at the advocacy center, I never did direct service with the children who were coming into the center, but coworkers would say that like they would ask the child, questions, and the child would still say like, I love my mom or I love my dad, whoever the perpetrator was. I still love them. And so children just want that love from their parents. They want that support, but sometimes they blame themselves for what's going on. So we just have to remember to remind them that it's not their fault, what their parents are going through. Now we're gonna get into the abuse part of the presentation. I'm sure some of you have seen pinwheels around. Pinwheels are famous for kind of making people aware of child abuse, right? April is Prevent Child Abuse month, right? So it's to bring awareness to the different types of abuse and the different resources that there are available for children who are abused or who have been abused. So the history of the pinwheel is that in 2008, Prevent Child Abuse America introduced the pinwheel as a new national symbol for child abuse prevention. The pinwheel kind of brings out a playfulness, joy. Kids like to like blow on it and make it spin. So it kind of resembles happiness, right? But it has come to serve as a physical reminder of the great childhoods we want for all children. So you've seen this. I know in April when I was at the Advocacy Center, they would buy big pinwheels and put them out in the front, just to make people aware of that we're all adults, and as adults, it is our job to keep children safe. So, what is child abuse? There's different forms of child abuse. It can be physical abuse, it can be sexual abuse, it can also be emotional abuse, and it can be neglect. And this applies to any young person under the age of 18. So, it comes in different forms. It's not just physical, right? So, it's not just something that you can see. Sometimes it's abuse that you can't see. So, what is physical abuse? This one is the most obvious one. It's the intentional use of force that results in injury or harm. So, examples are hitting, slapping, kicking, choking, using objects to cause harm, and they leave a visible sign on the body. So, this is, I say, the most obvious one because you can see it, right? You can see the signs of abuse. So, this one is one of the types of abuse. Then we have child sexual abuse. This one is any form of non-consensual sexual contact or behavior with a child under the age of 18. Some examples are rape, inappropriate touching, exposing someone to sexual acts against their will, showing a child pornography, exposing yourself in front of a child. That is considered child sexual abuse. And it can also be, it doesn't always have to be an adult with a child. It can also be a child with another child if that one child who is the perpetrator is exerts like force over that child, right? So it can be an adult with a child, or it can be a child with another child. It can be touching or it can be non-touching, showing images to a child, that is also child sexual abuse. Then we have emotional abuse. This is one that there's no science for it, right? There's hardly any signs, I should say, are visible signs. The definition is behaviors that harm an individual's self-esteem, emotional well-being, or sense of security. So some examples are insults, threats, manipulating emotions to control or intimidate the person, calling a child names, right? Making them feel less of a person, just making them feel like they don't belong. Physically or sexually abused children are usually emotionally abused as well. And perpetrators know how to use emotional abuse, right? They might tell their victim, well, you are, I'm just using this example, like you're dumb. No one's gonna believe you. No one's gonna believe this is happening, or I did this to you. That's emotional abuse. Calling a child dumb, calling a child stupid. We're all adults here. It's insulting the child, right? It's belittling the child. It's making the child feel less of a person. So that's a type of abuse, and that is emotional abuse. Neglect. So in Illinois, neglect is defined as the failure of a parent or caretaker to meet minimal parenting standards for providing adequate supervision, food, clothing, medical care, shelter, or other basic needs. Neglect is a form of abuse. One example that I use is not taking, you know a parent who has a child who has been sick with a cough for the past, couple months, and that cough just keeps getting worse, and that parent is just not taking their child to the doctor. That's medical neglect. Because that child it can be something that that child needs medication for. It can turn into something that's, more difficult to treat. So that's medical neglect. Sending a child with dirty clothes to school on purpose, right? Like you don't, you're just choosing not to do their laundry. Parents who have a substance use disorder oftentimes don't have the time, or don't make the time, or don't use the money that they have to provide these necessities to their child. They use that money to go and buy alcohol or go and buy drugs. So they fail to, wash their kids' clothes, or they fail to provide food for the children, right? The children are going hungry. That's a form of abuse. And oftentimes, this is the one that people kind of have to look twice at things, because it's some people might not think that not taking your child to the doctor is neglect, but it is. So these are some more statistics. I'm sorry, I didn't lie, but these are related to child abuse. 3.9 million reports of suspected child abuse in 2020. This is nationwide. 7.1 million children were affected by abuse or neglect. And neglect accounts for 75% of all cases. Physical abuse affects 18% of the cases, and sexual abuse involves 9% of the cases. And the statistic for sexual abuse, it might be a larger number, it might be a larger percentage, and that is just because a lot of children who are sexually abused oftentimes don't report, or families, once they find out, they choose not to report. So they go unreported, right? So I wouldn't doubt that this number is a lot higher than what I found in the reports. Young children are the most vulnerable. 25% of abuse victims are under 3 years old. The youngest children face the highest risk. This is because the perpetrators know that, a lot of times children who are little, they don't know how to talk yet. They don't know what is happening is wrong. There's no way of them, going to mom or dad or to another safe adult and reporting this, because they don't know how to do it. And perpetrators know this. When I was at the advocacy center, they told me that one of the youngest victims was 9 months old. And it broke my heart, because, like these children, right? Like they don't know. They can't, if something's happening to them, they can't express it. They can't seek help. So it's really important. I always tell parents and my family, it's really important to teach our children, to teach any children that we work with, or our personal children, the importance of, keeping themselves safe and reporting if anything is going on, anything with safe touches and not safe touches, teaching the children about their private body parts and using the correct name for the body parts, because a lot of times not teaching the child the correct private body parts can come back and really affect the child in a negative way if that child reports it, and that report goes to it goes to court, not not knowing the proper body part name, can go the opposite way of helping the child. Fatal abuse: 1,670 children died from abuse or neglect in 2020. That's a lot. That's one too many children who have died in the hands of like adults that they think adults are supposed to keep them safe, right? We are all adults. Our job is to keep children safe, regardless of if it's our own child or the neighbor's children or children that we work with. They see us as adults. They see us as that safe adult that we need to keep them safe. And for me to see this number, we need to do more, right? We need to do more in bringing awareness, in educating people, educating parents on how to prevent child sexual abuse or any type of abuse in a child. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before they turn 18. If you think about a classroom full of children, right? More than likely, students there have or are going to be sexually abused. So again, it brings me back to the education part, the bringing awareness to this, because the more kids know about safe touches, non-safe touches, about their private body parts, they're going to know when something is not right, when someone is doing something that is not right. They're going to know that it's not right and they're going to report it. So who are the abusers? You'd be surprised. We teach kids about danger, right? Stranger danger, right? Don't talk to strangers. They're dangerous. You don't talk to anybody that you don't know. But research shows that the kids who are sexually abused by someone that they know. And it can be a family member, it can be the babysitter, it can be a teacher. And why? Because they already have that trust. They've gained that trust from the family. If it's the babysitter, the parents trust this person to watch their kids, right? To take care of their kids. So they really don't have to do anything more to gain that trust from the family because they already have it. And the child, trust this person, right? My parents trust this person. I trust this person. I don't think this person is going to do any harm to me. And then only 10% of children are abused by strangers. So again, really important. Yes, teach our kids, children that we work with, about stranger danger, but we also need to teach them about that it can be, a family member. Secrets, right? It can be, let's teach our kids about that we don't keep secrets in this house, because a lot of the perpetrators oftentimes use that as a tool to continue their abuse. This is a secret. You can't tell mom or dad, or you can't tell anyone else what's going on. And the kids, if they don't know about not keeping secrets, they're gonna be like, ooh, a lot of times kids love keeping secrets, right? Like, ooh, I have a secret. They feel more grown up if they have a secret. But I like to tell parents and professionals, community members, that instead of using the word secret, use the word surprise. For example, if you are planning a surprise birthday party for someone in your family, and your child is involved, right? And you tell your child, but this is a secret. You can't tell dad, or you can't tell mom, or you can't tell so and so because it's a secret. Let's try to stay away from using the word secret. You can say this is a surprise. So only me and you know about this surprise. Like, no one else can know because it's a surprise. So let's stay away from using the word secret, because then kids relate the word secret with like something good. And if they ever do get encounter some form of abuse and the perpetrator is using the word secret, they're gonna think that, ooh, a secret, like it's cool. Like I have a secret. I'm important because I have a secret to keep. 70% of children who are sexually abused never tell anyone. A lot of the times it's because they're scared. They don't know that what's happening is wrong. The perpetrator might be telling them or threatening them, right? No one's gonna believe you. Like everyone's gonna think you're lying. They're never gonna believe that that's happening. They're gonna think you are a liar. Your parents are gonna get mad. So a lot of children just keep it to themselves, or they don't know who to go to for help and support. Long-term impact on the victim. Children who are sexually abused can experience emotional and psychological trauma that can last well into adulthood. So again, it's not only impacting them at the moment, but it has a lifelong impact. And we have to also remember that a lot of the victims sometimes end up disclosing when they're adults, because they might feel safe. They might, have already been through help, support that is kind of helping them be able to disclose. So that's when they start disclosing. So it's, again, talking about it, education, getting rid of this stigma, teaching our children about, their bodies and how to keep them safe is going to really help in keeping them safe when adults fail them in keeping them safe. Abuse also happens in all communities. There's no specific community where abuse happens. A perpetrator can be your next door neighbor. It can be someone in your family. It can be anyone. There's no specific way that a perpetrator dresses. It can be a teacher. In the past couple weeks, I've heard about like two cases that came out in the news where teachers are being accused, right, of sexual abuse with the students. So it can be literally anyone, and it's oftentimes people that you trust the most. So how does substance use disorder impact child abuse, right? Let's talk about physical abuse. So parents under the influence have impaired judgment. So they might, come home or they're home and they might grab their child, just thinking that they're not grabbing that child with a lot of force, and just trying to pull the child towards them, or just bringing them closer. And because they're under the influence, they don't know how strong they are at the moment, so they might end up hurting that child. They might be upset because they ran out of alcohol, or they don't have the drugs in the house, and that might make them become violent towards their child. So kids are being physically abused at home because the parents are under the influence. Emotional abuse. Children may experience neglect, verbal abuse, inconsistent parenting, and that impacts their emotional well-being. You'll see kids who are, who are shut down, or like I mentioned earlier, they just try to be perfect, so their parent doesn't call them names anymore, or their parent doesn't verbally abuse them. Sexual abuse. Substance abuse environments can lead to increased vulnerability and exposure to unsafe situations. Other people, other strangers, other adults might be coming in and out of the house. We don't know who the child is being exposed to. Oftentimes, it's there's parents are inviting friends over, like, come on over, let's have a drink, or let's drink, or make it a party, right? And these children are being exposed to strangers under the influence. And so that's putting them in unsafe situations. The parent might not be aware of what's going on because they're under the influence, so they are putting their children in unsafe situations. And again, the child doesn't know any better, or doesn't know that any different, I should say. And so that child thinks that this is normal. What's going on is normal. And they might not, or they might be scared to go and tell grandma or grandpa or another safe adult, right? Even the parents might be threatening the child. And that's the don't talk rule, the survival rule. Like, nobody else has to know what happens here. Grandma, grandpa don't have to know what's going on in the house. And these children are suffering. I mentioned this earlier, neglect. Parents struggling with addiction may fail to provide proper supervision, food on the table. They might use the money that's supposed to be for the rent, for the mortgage, on drugs, on alcohol, on gambling, and that family might become homeless because they don't have the money for the necessities, for the essentials. Exposure to harmful environments. I mentioned this earlier. Children are seeing illegal activities going on. They're seeing mom or dad or their grown up in the household using drugs. They're being exposed to domestic violence, leading to a long-term trauma. A couple weeks ago, I was at a tabling event and I was giving out information on the circle of care. And a woman came up to the table and said she would have loved these resources when she was younger, because she was exposed to domestic violence. She was exposed to substance use in the family that eventually led to her mom passing, and not passing because of substance use disorder, but the substance use disorder caused the dad to stab the mom to death. And the child was there. So these children are in the homes where this is happening. And a lot of times these children, I keep saying this, they don't have the resources. They don't have, excuse me, they don't know who to go ask for help. They don't know where to go. And so they kind of they continue their lives, right? And they bottle all that in because they don't know how to express that, like, I need help, that cry for help. So again, education. I am a high believer, strong believer in education, educating the community, educating parents on substance use disorders, and how children are impacted by all this. It's not, a lot of times people who have a substance use disorder often say, well, it's just me. Like, I'm the one using, I'm the one drinking. It's not impacting anyone else, but they don't see that the family that they have at home or the kids that they have at home are being impacted. They just don't know how to express themselves and go get that help that they need. The relationship between abuse and substance use disorders later on in life. It is shown, research shows that children who have some kind of trauma from their early childhood oftentimes have a substance use disorder later on in life because they're using that substance to cope with their trauma, to cope with their pain, with their anxiety, because again, they don't know how else to get that help that they need. They're ashamed. They fear being judged by others, right? A lot of times they are afraid of, finally voicing their need for help, and then someone telling them, well, why didn't you come to me sooner? Like, why did you wait so long? And so that pushes them away, right? And so we have to be mindful of what we say to the clients that we see, to the people that we work with, because oftentimes our words tend to push people away. So Um, they self-medicate. Adults who have some kind of trauma from their early childhood, with alcohol, with drugs, with prescription medications. That's what they use to numb their feelings. That's the no feel rule, right? Like I don't want to feel anything. Like I just want to drink or use these drugs and just like forget about everything that I'm feeling right now. Over time, the use of substances may escalate into an addiction as the individual becomes more reliant on them to cope with the lasting effects of abuse. So, like I mentioned at the beginning, like you either use drugs or you drink, whatever this person is doing. They need more. And the more they use, the more they drink, they feel better, right? They feel happier. It makes them feel happy. It makes them really forget about all their trauma, their problems, so they want more. The more they drink, the happier. And it's that hijack of the brain. This disorder just hijacks the brain and makes people believe that you need it. This is what you need. You don't need to seek, therapy. You don't need to seek counseling. You just need me, which is alcohol or the drug, and I will make you feel better. Impact on brain development. Abuse in childhood can significantly impact brain development, particularly areas responsible for emotion regulation, impulse control, and decision making. Kids don't know, right? They were never taught. They never were given the help that they needed, so they lack that that they lack that resource, for lack of better words, in their brain, right? So a lot of times adults who were abused as children, who have trauma from their early childhood, like they lose that. They don't have self-control. They either react a certain way, they overreact. They don't know how to control their emotions. They can isolate themselves, as part of their healing process, right? Instead of seeking that help that they need. Um, Early childhood trauma makes it just a lot easier for that addiction to come and take over that person's life, right? And again, without the resources, without the help, without people knowing that there's help out there, they just think that this is the way to go. This is what's helping me. This is what has helped me. And so this is what I'm going to continue to do because this is what I see is helping. Um, Adults who have childhood trauma also suffer from anxiety, depression, PTSD, um, because they never sought that help when the trauma happened. So it's showing in their adult life. They use drugs, they use alcohol. This impacts their health, right? People think that trauma doesn't impact our health, but it does. I've read articles where it shows that people who have trauma from their early childhood end up sometimes it can cause cancer. It can cause heart problems, right? It can cause it can cause a array of things in your health, and people don't know that. So they think, especially in our culture, and I'm speaking on this is my personal opinion, we don't see mental health as a thing, right? Like we don't acknowledge it. I have family members who are younger than me, go up to their parents and, just say like, I want to see a counselor, I want to see a therapist. And their parents just laugh in their face like, oh, therapists and counselors are for crazy people. You're not crazy. So I've seen it in my family where mental health is just, it's not acknowledged. It's not a thing. And again, that goes with the stigma, right? That comes with it. I try to teach my kids, it's okay to seek help. It's okay to express your emotions in a healthy way. It's okay to see a therapist. I was seeing a therapist for a while when I was teaching, just because I had a lot of stress from hearing all kinds of stories in the classroom, right, from the students. And I would bring it home with me, and I was seeing that it was impacting my family life because I couldn't. I was just trying to save all the students, and so I was seeing a therapist, and I just try to teach my kids and my family like it's okay, even though aunt and uncle might think that like mental health, like if you go see a counselor or therapist, you're crazy. Like that's not true. So again, education, getting the word out, letting people know that mental health is real, right? And taking care of yourself is real. And it's you should make it a priority, right? And we shouldn't put people down, those who want to seek help, because then that becomes a barrier for people who want to seek help. Um, kids who live in a house with a substance use disorder, or abuse in the household, tend to grow up where with the generational trauma, right? They see it, they think it's normal, they don't seek help for it, they just grow up with it, and eventually as an adult they use unsafe coping mechanisms to deal with that. If they see it every day, they are witnessing it every day, they think that it's normal, and they just continue it as an adult. When they have their own family, they're going to continue. They're going to continue the cycle because that's all they saw. They didn't know anything else that's normal to them, and that's when the cycle just continues. I was talking about health problems earlier. Trauma can cause obesity, diabetes. It can weaken the immune system. It can cause sleep disorders. Childhood trauma is often associated with insomnia, night terrors. And so, a lot of times, when as an adult, you have this, any one of these illnesses or any other illness, you go to the doctor and the doctor just sees the illness, right? It doesn't really do any digging for any trauma, because trauma sometimes is not related to a health problem, right? So I feel like doctors need to be doing more, to be able to help the people who need the help. So one example of how it can be weight gain in a child. If you see like drastic weight gain in a child or weight loss in a child, I would suggest you dig a little deeper, because there was a case where a young lady went to her mom, because she wanted to go to the doctor, right? And the mom said, well, yeah, let's take you, like you've been gaining a lot of weight. Let's go to the doctor. This was a young girl's cry for help. She was just waiting for somebody to ask her more questions, so that she can disclose. So she asked to go to the doctor. The mom said, yep, because you've been gaining a lot of weight. Let's go. She went to the doctor. The doctor put her on a diet. Like, okay, let's put you on a diet. This is what you're gonna eat. And didn't do any more digging, didn't do any more observations, just went off like, yep, weight gain, get on diet. Turns out that the girl was being sexually abused by her neighbor. and she started gaining weight. And she was gaining weight in the hopes of like fending off the perpetrator, right? Like if I gain weight, if I'm unattractive, this perpetrator is gonna leave me alone and the abuse is gonna stop. But her mom didn't notice it. Her mom didn't ask any more questions. The doctor definitely didn't ask any more questions. So this is all linked to her abuse, right? So it's just doctors need to do more. Clinicians, can dig a little deeper, ask the right questions, and just be there for the child. And sometimes the child is just looking for that one safe adult who they feel safe with to make a disclosure. So my example, the weight gain, it's not always just, weight gain. It can be something else. If you go to the doctor for, frequent colds, a child is always getting sick, or you yourself, you're always getting sick. It's a constant cold that you have a weak immune system. It can be that you need more than just going to the doctor. It might be from some childhood trauma that you might have, and it's okay to seek help. It's okay to seek that support. Women who have experienced childhood sexual abuse are at a higher risk for developing substance use disorders in adulthood. The trauma from abuse often leads to a higher likelihood of using that substance as a way to cope. Again, stigma, shame. Women don't want to feel or hear, the criticism or the shame that comes with seeking help. So they just resort to drugs or alcohol as a way to cope. Trauma, I touched on trauma already. Really important to address that trauma in children, so that they can know that it's okay and they can seek that support and that help at a young age. So signs of child abuse, I went over the signs for a substance use disorder. So what are the signs of child abuse? What do we look for in children who could be potentially getting abused? Sudden change in behavior, personality. Either the child can become withdrawn, they want to be alone, or they become social butterflies, right? They just want to talk to everyone and anyone in the hopes of somebody asking that right question so that they can make that disclosure. Acting younger than their age, regressing. For example, if a child is already potty trained and they start having accidents, it could be a way for you to do a little bit more investigating, right? If it's your child. Acting aggressively, a child might just have all that built up different emotions, and they just start acting out. They have a lot of anger, they have a lot of frustration, they don't know how to express it in a safe way, and this is the only way that they know. A child may seem sad, hopeless, overwhelmed. If you work with children and you have a child that has normally, this child is very friendly, they like to play, they like to talk, they're always happy, and then all of a sudden you notice a change in their behavior, right? They seem sad all the time. They don't want to talk as much as they normally did. Ask some more questions to that child. They don't want to have any friends. They don't want to hang out with friends. They don't want to hang out with family. They lost interest in activities. They want to avoid anything that has to do with like socializing. They don't want to do. That's a warning sign, right? You should step in and just let the child know that you're there. If they ever want to talk to you, if they have something to talk about, you're there to listen. If a child is having difficulty sleeping or wakes up in the middle of the night scared, That can be also a warning sign that something's going on. Um, if a child, if you notice that a child all of a sudden has a certain fear of certain people, being around certain people or going to certain places, that can be a warning sign. If you have children of your own, one thing I started teaching my children after working in the advocacy center is if they don't want to give a kiss to someone, because in my family it's you kiss and you hug, as a greeting. But after working in the advocacy center and learning all the different signs and like just being supportive of the child, I've steered away from that. Especially like my daughter, she's still little. If she doesn't feel like giving grandma a kiss or grandpa a kiss on the cheek and a hug, like I don't force her. If she just wants to fist bump or high five, like that's totally fine. Because if we teach children that they have to please adults, then if they do come into that situation where they're being sexually abused or physically abused, whatever, abuse in general, and they think that it's their job to please the adult, then they don't know that the abuse is wrong. They don't know that what they're going through is wrong, because they just want to please that adult. So let's teach our children that it's okay if you don't want to hug that person. It's okay if you don't want to go to grandma's house or to grandpa's house or to your uncle's house. I'm not going to force it. We have to teach our children that we're going to respect their their decisions, if they don't feel like doing something. Acting out sexually or showing inappropriate knowledge. This is for if you work with children or you have children of your own. If they know more than what they should at their age, like sexual knowledge, that's a warning sign. Do a little bit more, just I'm here for you. Like, can you tell me if it's drawing? A lot of times kids who are sexually abused will give like signs of their abuse by drawing something out. So if you ever see children drawing, just can you tell me a little bit more about that picture? Can you tell me who this is? Can you tell me who that is? And don't ever put words in their mouth, but just ask general open-ended questions. And if they feel safe, they will disclose. Eating disorders or self-harm. If you notice that a child is starting to harm themselves, right? Why, right? Like, make that child feel safe. Let that child know that you're there, so that they feel safe. That might be their only coping mechanism, or eating, right? They might use food as their coping mechanism. Like they feel secure, they feel good when they're eating or when they're harming themselves. It makes them feel good. Just dig a little, like show them that you care, so that they know that they have a safe adult that cares about them. Signs of abuse, what to look for. So the physical abuse is pretty obvious, right? Bruises, bite marks, burn marks, broken bones. That's pretty easy to spot in a person. Signs of neglect, poor hygiene, dirty clothing, or untreated rashes. If you notice that a child that you work with or you interact with on a daily basis has had a rash for a while, and you just you've told mom, dad, or they're grown up that about this rash, you mentioned it, and nothing is being done, that's neglect, right? Because it can be something that needs medical attention. Weight loss, sudden or extreme thinness, they're not eating. Inappropriate clothing, it's middle of winter, it's below, 0, and the child is not wearing a proper coat. That's neglect. And although I do know, I'm guilty. My son, my teenager, refuses to wear a coat in the wintertime. It's not neglect. He has a coat. He just refuses to wear a coat. And so I've told him when it's like below zero in the middle of winter, when he goes to school, like your teachers are gonna think that I do not have a coat for you. So please take your coat. So that teachers see that you do have a coat and you are old enough to tell them that it's your choice not to wear a coat, but you do have one. And so he just refuses to wear a coat. He just sweats a lot, so he's fine with a sweater. But if you see younger children without a proper coat in the middle of winter, I would ask questions. I'd also be okay with the teacher, if she would suspect neglect on my end, like that, I don't have a coat for my son. I'd be okay with her asking or reaching out. I'd rather her reach out than what if I am neglecting him, right? What if he does need a coat and he doesn't have one, and I'm choosing just to send them with a sweater. So it's better to be a little bit more involved than not be involved and then find out that something is happening. What to look for: multiple injuries, injuries in different stages of healing. A lot of times, the perpetrators of abuse will injure the child in places where it is not seen, just so that it's not visible and people don't suspect that something's going on. So I'm not saying, uncover their back and check their back, but if a child complains of a pain, you work with children or you have children. If a child starts complaining of back pain or stomach pain or just pain in their body, I would ask a couple more questions. I would ask follow-up questions like, can you tell me about what happened? Do you want to tell me what happened? Why does your back hurt? And you can kind of determine if you need to report or you need to do some further assessment on the child if you're a professional that works with children. Some typical adolescent behavior, like I was saying about my child, right? Teenagers, some behaviors typical, withdrawing from family to spend time with friends. That's normal in teenagers. They want to hang out with friends more. What's a potential warning sign that something's going on? Withdrawing from friends and family. They don't want to do anything. Typical, they want more privacy, right? As they're getting older, they want more privacy. Potential warning sign that something might be happening, becoming secretive, and the privacy seems like they are hiding something. Moving from childhood likes to teen pursuits. So if you notice that, all of a sudden this child loved playing with dolls and all of a sudden they're not interested in dolls, they want makeup, that can be a warning sign. We have to remember that abuse is preventable. We can provide a safe and stable and nurturing environment to each child, as safe adults that we are. I keep saying we are safe adults because we're supposed to be the safe adults that the children have in their lives so that they feel like they can come to us and feel safe and disclose anything that they feel they need to. What kids need to know. They need to know that it's okay, that they are not alone. Other families sometimes have the same problems. They are not to blame. They need to learn how to express their emotions, and they need to learn how to tell someone they trust when they do not feel safe. What you can do is provide a safe and stable environment, create consistency for the children, offer emotional security, be available for the child, to talk about their feelings without the fear of judgment, build trust and strong relationships. Again, this is trust, right? The children, if they trust you, if they feel safe, they will come to you and they will disclose if something is going on, and validate their feelings, right? Don't belittle them. Kids are entitled to feel what they feel, and it's okay if they come to you and they express those feelings. Encourage open communication. Let the child express themselves. Listen actively. That means you don't finish their sentences, you don't put words in their mouth. You just listen without interrupting, let them finish, and then you can follow up. Offer positive reinforcement, praise progress, and avoid blame. Never blame the child for anything that they have experienced. Watch your body language, because a lot of times our body language sometimes can scare the kids off because they might think that we are getting upset. So always just have an open mind when talking to children. Teach coping skills, model calmness, encourage professional support. So encourage them, encourage the families to seek therapy and counseling. Let them know that there's support groups that they can attend without them feeling scared or judged. Take care of yourself, practice self-care. You need to take care of yourself so that you can be there and take care of others. Seek support as a professional or as a caregiver. You can also seek support to take care of yourself. There's nothing wrong with seeking support so that you can emotionally and mentally feel good so that you can take care of others. Disclosures. So oftentimes it takes children weeks, months, years, or even their entire lifetime to reveal their abuse. If a child discloses, what should you do? Support the child in any way possible. Listen, avoid saying things that imply blame. Stay calm and validate the child's feelings. Things you can say. How can I help you? I've noticed that you've seemed more upset than usual lately. You want to talk about it. Sometimes it helps to talk to an adult in your life when you're upset. I'm here to listen. So all these things will make the child feel safe. And if something is going on, they'll make that disclosure. After the disclosure, always thank the child for telling you. Assure them that what happened was not their fault and tell them you believe them. Never make promises that you cannot keep to a child. So always, if they tell you, you can't tell anyone what I told you. You can't make that promise because you are a mandated reporter. You have to make that report. You have to report the disclosure. We have to remember that children are very resilient. With the help and support from trusting and safe adults, they can overcome just about anything. How to report child abuse? You can report it online if it's not an emergency at childabuse.illinois.gov, and you go on there and you make the report. If you believe the abuse or neglect you are reporting requires immediate action, you call the hotline. And if you believe that the child is in immediate danger, you call 911. You have the right to the report, like the findings of the report. You have a right as a mandated reporter to know what happened with that report. Always just give the information that the child told you. If you don't know something, it's okay to say, I don't know, I don't have that information. So never fill in the blanks for the questions that they're asking you in at DCFS. Always just share what the child told you. Some resources. Sesame Street has awesome, Sesame Workshop has awesome resources that are free to talk about tough topics. They have videos and activities on parental addiction, on divorce, on community violence. And this makes it a lot easier to talk to children about any tough topic. There's also books that I recommend to use to educate yourself, to be able to help the children that you serve or even your own children. This one is Off Limits. This has age-appropriate sexual development information, body safety rules. It is an excellent book to teach your children about keeping themselves safe. Building Resilience in Children and Teens. This book offers coping strategies to help children and teens deal with stress. So this is another great book for teenagers and children. My Voice is My Superpower. This is another one for younger kids on the body safety rules. So this is another great book to use when teaching kids about body safety. This is more for professionals, right? Avoid using stigmatizing language. So make yourself aware of the language that you're using when you are talking to clients, with families, with people who have a substance use disorder. Avoid using stigmatizing language, because then that is sometimes a way to push them away, and they won't come back to seek that help. These are some excellent websites that you can check out. All of the resources are free. You can also check out our website for free resources. I encourage you to visit all these resources and bookmark them so that you have them readily available. You can print stuff out for free, coloring pages, and again, it is free. How to recognize and respond to child abuse. This is just a summary. So we have to remember that abuse includes physical, sexual, emotional, and neglect. Know the signs. Make yourself aware of those signs. And again, it's better to make that call and not have it be abuse than not make the call at all, and then you find out that that child was being abused. Report the abuse. If you witness it, if you suspect that a child is being harmed, you need to call and report it. In Illinois, there's a law that protects you. You will not get in trouble if you make a report and it turns out that it wasn't actual abuse. If you can't make that report in good faith because you suspected it, there were signs, and you made it in good faith, you did not make it to harm the child or cause harm to the family, you are protected because you made it in good faith. You saw signs and you made that report. This is a way to get rid of the stigma. Tell your story, shout it, write it, whisper it if you have to, but tell it. Some won't understand it, some will outright reject it, but many will thank you for it. And then the most magical thing will happen. One by one, voices will start whispering, "Me too," and your tribe will gather, and you will never feel alone again. The more we talk about it, the more people are aware of it. They're not alone. There's others who are going through this, and it's okay to feel this way. I have a quick grounding exercise if you are open to do this. I just want you to come back and know that we did it. We got through this training. I want you to take a deep breath through your nose and out through your mouth, and just focus on your senses. I want you to look around and name 5 things that you can see. I want you to notice 4 things that you can feel in the room that you are in. That can be your feet on the floor, your shirt on your skin. 4 things that you can feel. I want you to hear. So I want you to listen for 3 sounds in the room that you are in. 3 sounds. I want you to identify 2 things that you can smell. It can be a candle that you have nearby. It can be your coffee. And I want you to notice 1 thing that you can taste. I want you to take 1 more deep breath. You are here, you are grounded, and you are okay. And that is all. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. My email is in the on the slide. If you would like to email me questions or just reach out for more resources, I am more than happy to send those your way. You will get the PDF version of the slides, and you will you will receive your CEU within 2 weeks. Give me about 2 weeks and I'll email that CEU to you and the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.